Welcome, everybody, on a Friday morning. Thank you all so much for joining us. Very much excited to be having you here available to join us for this webinar. We've also got a special guest who I'm very much excited to introduce to you very shortly. So before we'll just kick things off with an acknowledgement of country. Empower IT Solutions acknowledges the traditional owners of the land we meet today, and we would like to also pay our respects to elders past and present. So with that, I'm just going to give a brief introduction just to today's presentation. We'll be having myself, Saban, I'm one of the account managers at Empower IT, and I will be co-presenting with Leanne Dias, whom I will be introducing very shortly. Just a very quick thing, I've been in the IT game for a couple of years now, been working across a number of different IT initiatives, from just looking after infrastructure, SaaS, and now cybersecurity is obviously the core thing that we are focusing on. And the other thing that I do on the side is actually I'm also an Indian classical musician, and I run a music school. So what we are going to do is that, as we mentioned earlier today, it's about using Copilot and going from basically having Copilot as an assistant to having Copilot as someone who's a co-worker effectively. So I just wanted to take this opportunity that we're going to present a couple of examples of how we're using Copilot. And, what I wanted to do was shift the focus a little bit and take it away from just talking about Outlook and things like that, which you've seen in numerous AI presentations. What I wanted to talk to you about is how AI has made my life much easier as an Indian classical music teacher who runs a music school. So one of the things that I had was this problem of I've got multiple spreadsheets, and also I was just having this situation where my school, which is just a little side business on the side, it just kind of grew pretty quickly. So, the business problem that you have of, an initiative taking off pretty quickly and becoming a victim of your own success is something that I had. So what that meant was I was losing control of admin. I was not able to know about which students were enrolled. I wasn't able to understand what I needed to do at any one point in time because I had to check multiple spreadsheets. And also the other problem was I didn't know which ones were updated because it was all being done manually. As you all know, Microsoft Excel is one of the most powerful of the productivity suites. And the real truth is most of us use only a fraction of it. And why I had multiple spreadsheets was also because I had so many different things that I needed to update, but I wasn't using circular referencing because for me, it was just too hard as a person. So I then thought to myself, why don't I start using Copilot at home the way that we do it at work? So I started using Copilot, and using Copilot, when I say I use Copilot, there's actually a number of different agents within Copilot as well, which are free. A couple of them, quite a few of them are free. So there is a thing called Ideas Coach. So what I did was I went to Ideas Coach and I just started typing in real life, just in simple language, I'm having these problems, I'm having these issues, I don't know how to run my business because there's too much information coming in and it's coming in from all different places and I'm updating 4 or 5 spreadsheets. So Ideas Coach then gave me a couple of different things that I can work on. So it said, you know what you should be doing? You should be having a singular page in which you can update all of your students and then you put in all the information that you need. And then using that, I took those ideas and then I went to another agent in Copilot called Prompt Coach. So what Prompt Coach does is that it actually helps you build the prompt that you put into the AI. So you've already attended a couple of our AI sessions where we've informed you that when you're going into AI, the quality of your prompt is what's going to determine the quality of the output. So then obviously the prompt becomes very important. So actually, this is an example of using AI to get the information that I needed to do so that I can get AI to do the work that I needed to do. So once I got that information, then I actually went into Excel and using the Excel Copilot agent, and by putting in the prompts and then following up with, giving feedback in real time, I was able to create a spreadsheet in which I now know where all of my students are. I can actually do forecasting. I can also, it's now helping me track expenses. It's helping me track all of these things in the one spreadsheet. And the long and short of it is that this is something that has saved me about 5 to 6 hours of admin per week. And it's something that's actually dramatically helped us. What does this have to do with the presentation, you'll be asking, well, all of those things that I was talking to you about earlier are business problems. I didn't have visibility. I had to go in and update everything in multiple different places. And sure, when I first started using Copilot, all I was doing was to, getting it to write emails for me or summarize certain things. And sure, look, it was very helpful, but that's just a little assistant. So what I was kind of sharing with you is how I use Copilot as a coworker, as somebody that's actually going to do things on my behalf and actually make it and think also about what my business needs. So it actually made recommendations. You're missing these sorts of things. Would you like me to add that? This is an amazing capability that I think we should focus on today. So we're going to be talking about how you can use Copilot to shift it away from being an assistant to a coworker. The second thing that we're going to be focusing on today is obviously security. With great power comes great responsibility, as you all know. And given how powerful the tools that we have in front of us are with regards to AI, what we really would like to be able to do is to be able to present to you AI in a way you can also adopt it in a responsible manner, which is going to be secure, because all of those rules of data sovereignty still apply in the AI game. So we should be across these things. And I understand that there's a dramatic push in the market to just everybody should be jumping onto AI, and we agree with that too, but we should be doing it in a responsible manner. And the third thing that we wanted to focus on today is this idea or this concept of the AI leapfrog game. So the idea is that all of our customers, are always asking the question, which AI do I go with? I'm seeing so many different options. I'm seeing so many different things. What's the best one for me? So the thing is, the way that this AI is progressing in the marketplace is such that, vendor A will jump ahead, then vendor B will catch up in about 3 months' time. Then A will jump ahead, then B will catch up, and then there'll be a C that will come in. And then so you can't actually keep up with all of the different models. And we all know that it's not possible for us to keep jumping from one AI to the other, because then you're just not going to have a consistent usage and you're always going to be having change management to deal with. So the beauty of Copilot, which Leanne will take you through, is that Copilot is a door. You open the door, sitting behind the door sit a number of different AI technologies, not just from the original Microsoft space, but they've also collaborating with other different AI vendors as well to give you those capabilities. So the beauty of going with Microsoft is that you actually get thousands of models which actually sit below the surface of Copilot, which will actually give you the ability to look at different models which are catered towards giving you greater output depending on what your needs are. So these are the three things that I think are going to be the key takeaways. You're going to see how you're going to be using Copilot, not just as a research assistant or just something that drafts emails for you, but it can actually help solve your business problems. The second part is that we're going to focus a lot on security, because that's the thing that, from an Empower IT perspective, that's the most important thing that we'll focus on, because we are still, it's our duty to make sure that we're doing the right thing by all of our customers. And the third thing is just looking at Copilot as that one AI to rule them all, because it's got so many different models that sit within it. So with that, I would like to now introduce our very special guest. We've got Leanne Davis, who is a highly experienced and business and technology consulting specialist. She's actually been someone that's worked within the Microsoft space for a very long time, and also she's someone that's very crucial for us partners, as she's helped a number of our Microsoft partners also bring wonderful solutions to our customers. So it's actually a great privilege for us to be having somebody with so much experience and expertise joining us today. So without further ado, I'll just hand it over to Leanne, who's going to be taking over.
Thanks, Subin, and good morning to you all. It's lovely to see a lot of you interested in this on a Friday morning. And we're hoping to cover a lot of ground today. But before we do so, what we have done, and the team have done actually, put together a little QR code. So if you have any questions and you want to stay anonymous with your questions, please feel free to use this QR code and submit your questions. And we want to help you think about how you might actually use Copilot in your day-to-day. So think about what tasks takes you more than a couple of hours a day. Where do you have friction when you're trying to do some data reporting? So you might have friction with summarizing or even creating the data. We'd love to hear more from you. So please feel free to scan this QR code. I think someone might actually put the link in the chat or in the Q&A section as well. So if you missed this slide and we progress to the next slide, I'm just going to give it another 10 seconds before I progress to the next slide. So we'd love to see your questions, and we're going to try to tackle as many as we can towards the end of the session. All right. So with that, I hope everyone has access to the QR code. What we're going to do is really kick things off with what is Microsoft 365 Copilot, and why is that different from a lot of the generative AI tools that you know that exist today. So the first thing we have here is when it comes to Microsoft 365 Copilot, if you think about Microsoft is an ecosystem of solutions. So it has things from productivity solutions, security solutions, your ERP solutions, and then of course you can have your infrastructure as well with Microsoft. So Microsoft truly has an integrated approach of how you might actually work with the tools. When it comes to AI, it has different capability built in. So you have Copilot chat with web grounding. What that means is when you interact with Copilot chat and it's web grounded, and we'll have a look at a screenshot very shortly, you will notice very quickly that the results that it surfaces through the Copilot chat experience with web grounding is publicly available information that is available today on the internet. It doesn't have any context about your work information until or unless you decide to share some work context with it. So you might actually share a file, and that's how it will know that work context. The next option you have there is Copilot chat with work grounding. That is where it starts to understand who you are. It has access to all the documents you work with, the emails that you've shared with individuals. It has access to your team chats. So the response to you is basically provided from a work-centric approach. And then, of course, it's embedded in your Microsoft 365 applications. So you have the ability to then use Copilot to summarize information to create new drafts within Microsoft 365. And finally, you have Copilot Studio. So where a Copilot does not exist and you want to extend that AI capability within other applications, you have the ability to build your own Copilots. And Microsoft makes this easy for you. You have the agent builder experience, so you'd be able to pretty much simply put in some instructions into a chat kind of experience, and that is building your agent for you. And that example very shortly through the demo as well. And then for more extensive capability where you might need to transform some of the data, you might need to have some decision trees and control how that agent actually responds to individuals. That's where you'll start to use Copilot Studio to build agents where you're putting some more control in place on how a user interacting with that agent might navigate through different subjects. And what we call that is topics. So if we look at the screenshot over here, what we can see straight away is right at the top, you have work and web. When we spoke about web grounding and we spoke about work grounding, so web, it's where it's retrieving information that is publicly available for you through the internet, and work, of course, it understands your work context. The other option you see over here is the ability for you to basically automatically, it chooses a model for you, and that it uses an orchestration layer. So Microsoft 365 Copilot uses an orchestration layer, and it selects the most appropriate model for you based on your prompt, the context you provide, and the required outcomes. But you have the ability to then also go and change the way it actually responds. So you have the ability to change that to a quick response or think a little bit deeper, and then also change the model that you might want to use in the response. So you have the ability to do that. And you can actually see that there are new models now. Claude is now available with Copilot chat as well. If you look at what's happening as well is Microsoft's constantly investing in their AI capability. And through these investments, it starts experimenting with new features. And some of you on the call, if you're using Copilot today, you can pretty much sign up for the Frontier program, which gives you early access into these tools that Microsoft's pretty much working on. And they're all packaged in the Frontier capability. So you just need to turn that Frontier capability on. And if you don't have it on and you need some help with it, I'm sure the team at Empower IT will be very happy to help you with this. What I did want to show you is where it's going with the multimodal capability. So Researcher is one of the copilots that have been built by Microsoft. It allows that deep thinking experience, so deep thinking output. So if you have a question, if you have a prompt that needs it to pretty much go through multiple layers, so you might need to do some research about the company, you might need to do some profit and loss analysis, and dig deeper into files and board reports and stuff like that. Researcher is a great place to start because it goes into layers and layers. It starts asking questions of the responses it provides. And when you put your prompt in, it might actually ask you to provide additional information so it can be guided to provide you the answer based on what your criteria is. With this, the automatic model in Researcher, what you can see is the GPT model is used to provide a response. And after GPT model provides a response, Claude goes on top of it and refines the response, basically checks for accuracy, checks for completeness, and it refines the output. So we're now seeing that multimodal capability starting to be embedded into tools like Researcher. You also have Model Council. What that does is when you put a prompt, it has a side-by-side comparison of what the output would look like with the GPT model and a Claude model. So you can start to compare the two as well. And of course, you then still have the ability to select a single model in your response. I did want to touch on the AI investments because what you can see is Microsoft's now starting to include multimodal capability in the Copilot experience. You have this Frontier capability, you have the ability to now test these new AI models that Microsoft's bringing into market. And we're going to have a look at Copilot Cowork, which is one of the Frontier capabilities. Anything that you see with Frontier capability, or if I mention Frontier, that means it's not generally available to everyone yet. And that means Microsoft might still be refining things behind the scenes. So use it. Don't get overly reliant on it because it does have the tendency to change until it's made generally available. So that's just a point that I might highlight. And if you think about the further differentiators of Microsoft 365 Copilot, it's really not focusing on just replacing human judgment altogether. It really emphasizes on using AI as a co-pilot to handle the mundane routine tasks or to handle things like analyzing data, accelerating workflows. So it's really trying to help your teams move from those mundane tasks, the things that might have been a struggle previously, to helping them focus and concentrate on higher value, more strategic work. It is integrated in your Microsoft 365 applications. We've already spoken about that. And you have Microsoft Graph. So think of Microsoft Graph as the engine that connects all of your Microsoft 365 data. It pulls together your emails, the Teams chats that you've had, the meetings that you've had, files that you're working on, and your calendar appointments. So the tools, Copilot in particular, can access the right information based on the permissions you have in place for your specific user. Now, I don't have WorkIQ on the slide, but I do want to highlight Microsoft Graph and WorkIQ work hand in hand to deliver the optimal outputs for you as a user. And what WorkIQ is, it's pretty much Copilot's understanding of who you are in your work environment, what's your role, and how work happens within the organization. So how do you actually collaborate? Who do you collaborate with? Who are you having the most frequent meetings with? What meetings have you attended? And in those meetings, what files you use? What is your role in the specific environment? So it's pretty much providing that context-aware, relevant, and personalized output. So they kind of work in hand to provide the most optimal outputs to you as a user. We spoke about the customizable. So it's basically if there is no Copilot and you want to basically build your own Copilots, you have the ability to do that with Agent Builder and then with Copilot Studio. Now, turning a switch on is one thing, but making that tool work for you and getting the most value out of the tool is really important. And this is where organizations need help. And Microsoft have built a whole bunch of resources that are available to you as a customer around adoption and skilling. So you have a scenario library based on your type of role. You might perform certain tasks. So how might you use the prompts, or what prompts might you use? And then, of course, measuring impact is important as well, because you are paying for a license. So how is this license being consumed? What is the impact that you have within the organization? And you have a Copilot dashboard for it. Now, in order to get the best value of Copilot, when it's turned on, I see a lot of frustrated users saying, oh, it's not doing what I want it to do. And there's an art and science of prompting. So if we break this down, is when you're sending a prompt to Copilot, it's really important you specify what is it that you want from Copilot, why do you want it, from where should it get the information, and how would you like it presented to you? So what, why, how should be presented to you, and where it should get the information from. So you have your goal. What response do you want from Copilot? So I want, and we'll go into examples over here. I want 3 to 5 bullet points. Context. Why do you need this information? What bullet points do you want? So this is where, to prepare me for a meeting with, you're specifying client information. So it starts to now pull, what's your interactions been with those clients in the last few weeks or few months? And you've now provided additional context for their Copilot launch. So it's now starting to basically streamline that conversation and the output that it provides further to specific to Copilot launch. Where should it pull that information from? Now, this is best practice guidance from the Microsoft adoption site. Though the source is important and the timeline of events might be important, because if you have to basically pull reports for a board meeting, you might only want to filter that for information in the last 6 months. So you might actually also specify a timeline when you specify the source. So from where and in the last X amount of time, or between this particular period of time, and the expectation. So in this particular example, the user just wants simple language so they can get up to speed quickly. So you can actually put your expectation in as well. And if you start to use this, and it takes time getting used to using goal, context, source, and expectation, but once you start to use this in your prompts, you'll start to see much better results and outputs from your Copilot as well. Now, I know some of you on the call have already experienced Microsoft 365 Copilot in action. We're going to do a very quick demo of how it's embedded into different tools and how you can actually connect the dots. So Subin started with how he uses it for his music business. And connecting the dots was important. So we looked at Idea Coach, Prompt Coach, and then Copilot capabilities within Excel. This demo is just pretty much going to focus on Joni. Joni is a senior executive in a product development firm, and she's every day. So we're going to look at how Joni uses Copilot. Some of the look and feel, the user interface might be a bit different to what you see now, because there's always refinements in how Copilot basically builds and grows over a period of time. Don't worry too much about the user interface. Focus on the capabilities, but also focus on how you can actually connect the dots. So instead of using it just for one purpose, how can you extend it to connect the dots and make it work for you? So with that, we'll get started into this demo. I might actually pause the demo as we go along so I can talk to specific points in the demo. So Joni starts her day in Outlook. Her inbox is flooded with a lot of emails, and she can see this first email as she clicks into her inbox, that first email, and as she zooms into it, she can see here that she's copied on a thread. And instead of catching up with everything that's going on that thread, and a lot of us know the pain in someone starting a thread and then just copying and pasting and adding new people to the thread. So instead of going through everything that's happening, she's basically going to use the summarize option within Outlook, in the Copilot summarize option within Outlook, to ask for a summary of what's actually going on with this email. And what Copilot does is scans through the email and immediately gives her an update of what's actually going on. And she can see here is there is an issue with data visualization not functioning. Joni knows immediately she's seen this issue pop up somewhere else in the most recent days. She doesn't remember where she's seen the information pop up because she's just juggling too many things. So she wants to know if there's a resolution to this, and because it's been brought up in somewhere else in the business. So she goes into Copilot Chat, and she will ask Copilot Chat for an update on this data visualization issue. And she's also asked for any documents and links that are applicable to this data visualization issue. What you can see very seamlessly, Copilot has been able to say, yes, there is an issue. Deepak mentioned it in the chat, but there's also a workaround. And it's also been able to add 3 new references. So the chat with Deepak, the bug report, which has the workaround steps. So you can see there is a Word document in here, and there's an action and issue tracker list. The action and issue tracker list is important for Joni because she wants to know, has this issue come up multiple times within the organization? So she just wants to filter this action and issue tracker to only focus on high priority bugs that have not yet been resolved. So Copilot within Excel now takes this action and summarizes that or filters those issues in the issue tracker. But what Joni can very quickly see is that data visualization issue keeps popping up a few times. So she wants to be on the front foot and make sure she lets the customers know that there is a problem and there is a workaround. But before she does that, now that there is a workaround, she wants to make sure that the issue resolution time is reducing. So she's going to ask Copilot to ask, has the resolution time been actually trending down? Copilot doesn't just give her a response here, it actually gives her a graph. So if she needs to report to someone else, you can see how it's trending downwards over a period of time. She has that graph available to her. She can add it to a new sheet. She can copy and paste it anywhere else in an email and send it to her managers if she needs to do so. But in this particular instance, she has started working on a workaround document. All that's left to be done here is add the workaround steps. Now she knows there are workaround steps. So as we used Copilot Chat earlier, there were 3 files that were provided. The second one was a bug with workaround steps. What she's going to do here is use Copilot to draft the response, and she's going to reference that bug report that we saw earlier. So what Copilot does is it looks at that other Word document and then starts to basically retrieve those workaround steps. She copies those workaround steps. She's happy with this document. There's one internally, but she uses Copilot to then draft a response and to draft an email to her clients to proactively inform them that there is an issue. So what we've seen very quickly through this example is Joni has used the tools very intelligently. She has used the tools to connect the dots, not just summarize, not just create, but create with intent, create with action. And also at the same time, she's been able to do this whole task that would have taken her a few hours, or would have probably taken her a bit of engaging with other people in the team, so a few other meetings in the team. She's now been able to do that independently. So we've had a look at that example. That is all we're going to do with the Microsoft 365 capabilities within the applications. What today, well, sorry, we do have agent mode that I'm going to show you, so Excel, and then we're going to really focus on the agentic capabilities within Copilot. So what we have here is I have an Excel spreadsheet, and like Subin, I also found out recently that he runs music classes, but I also run music classes. But we'll talk about the music classes in just a bit. In this particular instance, what we're going to look at is we have stows. So you can actually see I have different sheets on this Excel spreadsheet. And if I play that video. I have pre-recorded videos only because it saves us time as we deliver these demos and I don't have to wait for clicks and stuff like that. I've been able to pause these demos at the right time, pause recording of the demos just to show you the capability. So we are using the time well today. Now what we have here is we have an Excel spreadsheet. It has information about stores and the various tabs. You can actually see it has product information. So the products, what's the unit cost for each product? What's the price per unit? And then it has sales for each product as well. So combined sales for each product and then individual transactions as well. And finally, we have quarterly sales. So what are the quarterly sales across all stores, across all products for this particular business? Now, what I can do is open Copilot in Excel. And what you can easily see here is instead of choosing the auto mode, I am actually going to use the Claude Opus 4.7 mode, the agentic mode within Copilot. And what I'm going to do here is going to say, I want to triple my sales. I have big ambitions to grow my business in the next year. I want to triple my sales and I want to create projections. Right now, I'm just going to go with increasing the price per unit from between 2 to 7. I know I'm underpriced in the market, so I'm going to increase the price between 2 to 7%. I want to have a look at what that looks like. And then if I want to triple my sales, how many additional units would I be able to sell? Should I have to sell in order to achieve the goal? So with that, what we're going to do is run this prompt. And Copilot will actually think about it. It might actually spend a few seconds, 10, 20, 30 seconds thinking about it. And what you're going to now see is Copilot in agentic mode. So it's now going to start to create new rows and columns for you. So it's going to think about all of that. And as it's thinking about what it is going to do, it's basically said its planned interpretation of what I've asked is basically go triple the sales, increase the price. And if I then scroll below, it'll also ask me a few questions. So I'm just going to walk it through this video. Additional units. So it says I have a few clarifying questions before I build this. So it's, would I like to use a uniform increase or should it be variable for each product? So it gives me a few options. It doesn't make me think about it. It actually gives me a few options. And then it also has two other questions. So should each product triple its own revenue or contribute proportionally to a single 1.3 million is where I want to get to. And then should I keep the unit cost the same? So I'm going to respond to these three questions. And I'm just going to copy and paste some of that information. And I'm just going to make a a little change over here. So this gives you an example why if I had to do a live demo, it would take me a lot more time to actually type things out and we wouldn't be able to cover as much content as we could on this session, but you can actually see this working in real time because I recorded all my prompts as well. And then I'm going to respond to the last question and ask the agent to pretty much take action. So revenue projection, it understands what I've said. I meant projection, I wrote project, it understands what I've said, and then it takes the necessary steps. What I'm going to do, just to save us some time with this demo, I'm just going to fast forward it a little bit. And what you can actually see here is, okay, if I just go here a bit, what you'll see here is Copilot then starts to create this sheet for me. And it starts to say, okay, we're going to go with a variable price increase, and it's created a price increase for each of those products. It's also specified what the new price is, the units sold in FY26, the revenue in FY26, and then it says what is the revenue target and how many units would I be required to sell in order to basically triple my growth in the next year. I could then ask it more questions and do a profitability analysis, but this is how agent mode now starts to create the cells. It also creates the formulas, and as it creates the formulas, what you'll see over here, it'll actually tell you in the Copilot pane, it'll tell you what formulas it is using. So if you need to make changes and modifications to the formula, you have the ability to do so. Agentic mode is a really powerful introduction in Excel. And by the way, everything that I created over here, I used Copilot in Excel to pretty much create the products, create the sales and transactions. So all the data that you see here is demo, it's sample data that has been created by Copilot. What we want to go through now is see what are the other agentic capabilities that are available to us. So I run a program for kids under the age of 6 to help them get started with music foundations. Now, I have all of this information saved in a SharePoint site. So typically, let's say I had to build a team and had to onboard the team with what the program outcomes the program delivers. Or parents wanted to interact with an agent or a chat interaction to find out more about what that program delivered. Instead of contacting me, I can actually start to build an agent. So the first thing I would do is when I'm building an agent, I go into creating a new agent. That'll take me to my agent builder experience, agent builder screen. And what I should be able to do here is provide a description of what is it that I want to do. So as I say, clear and accurate accurate information about the Kajola Beats music program, I didn't want to give up my my SharePoint site over here. So what you can actually see here is I've linked the SharePoint site, so / and you can actually look at site and link your site in here. And I've also specified very clear instructions. I want to cover topics such as learning outcomes, program stages, policies, etc. So I'm going to send that information through into my agent. And as I do that, it's going to open up a new screen. So this is that agent builder experience screen. What you can see is you have two options over here. You have configure and try it right at the top. In the configuration screen, all the instructions that I've actually provided, it starts to use those instructions and copy and paste those instructions into the instruction bracket. In the knowledge area, what you will see as well, this is on the right-hand side of the screen, because I gave it a link to a SharePoint site, it links it to a SharePoint site. But before I show you the details in there, I'm going to click into the Try It tab. So you can actually see it's already clicked into the Try It tab. And remember my initial prompt. I said I wanted it to basically provide information about learning outcomes, program stages, class bookings. It starts to use those as suggested prompts in here already. And what it's done is it's automatically given my agent a name. I now want to add additional instructions. So for example, I'm just going to focus on, I want to make sure that if the input language is something other than English, I want this agent to only respond in English. So I say, sorry, this interaction can only continue in English. And then I also do birthday parties, but I know my SharePoint site doesn't have any information about birthday parties. So this is where I'm starting to extend its scope based on information that's not available and say, if they ask information about birthday parties, please respond with, yes, we do birthday parties. And if the age group is not within the age found within the repository, say, sorry, we do not cater to that age group. So I now sent that instruction to my agent. And what it will do is in my configuration pane, it will start to add those instructions to the agent itself. And it might take a few seconds to pretty much update the instruction set. What I want to do also, I don't like Kajola Beats support, so I want to rename my agent to Kajola Beats. Kajola Beats Guide. So what you can see here in real time, it will go and change that Kajola Beats support to Kajola Beats Guide. There we go. So it's made that change. And you can see all the prompts in there as well. I'm now going to test my agent. So I'm going to ask it for different stages for the Kajola Beats music program. It's going to go to my knowledge sites, which is SharePoint, and start to retrieve information about the program. So what I'm going to do here is, as it's generating a response, I'm going to also say, what about kids classes for 11-year-olds? Because right now it's mentioned everything up to the age of 4.5 up to the age of 6. So I'm going to ask it about programs for 11-year-olds. I've already sent the prompt, so it's still generating the prompt. I've asked it about 11-year-old classes, and it's processing that request, and it said, sorry, we do not cater to that age group. Now, who is the founder of Kajola Beats? It has the information about the founder of Kajola Beats. So hopefully it provides that information. But you see, my instruction set did not have any of that information previously. I didn't provide anything about founder of Kajola Beats, but the SharePoint site did. So it'll start to find that information. And I'm going to test it a bit further to say, okay, how do you actually make sure privacy is maintained? So can you give me her phone number? And what you will see very quickly is it will, although it has access to my phone number, it has access to my phone number in multiple places in my environment, it is going to keep that confidential. So it is not going to share my personal information with the agent. And it does that automatically. And the last thing we're going to test over here is we're testing that interaction in a different language. And it's responded, sorry, this interaction can only continue in English. Now for a configuration pane, I didn't do all of this. It's basically taken the instructions on the left-hand side and started to build an instruction set for the agent. It does this automatically. So you can see it's also provided some example interactions. It's done this automatically without me having to go and provide a detailed instruction set. Knowledge sources, I added Kajola Beats, the SharePoint site. You can add additional capabilities. You can also add suggested prompts. You can update your existing prompts as well. So quite rich in terms of the functionality. I have not introduced a single line of code as I've had this whole experience. Now, for you on the call, you might have onboarding guides for users. You might have policies and procedures about leave, about expense claims, about travel. Instead of making someone go and read those user guides, which could be very lengthy at times, you could actually create an agent to interact with that information so people can be very specific about the question that they need a response to. And it can then pull that information from the repository exactly where you store that information. What we have here now, we've seen how it interacts with the agent build experience. What we have done here is gone into Copilot Studio, and I'll take you through that in a little while as well. And what we're going to do here is connect to information in Power Apps. So I have some sample data in my Power Apps over here. And what I have is I have information, I have accounts, so organization information. I also have contact information. So you will actually see contacts in here, and I have all sample contacts in here. I have projects, and we're going to assume that today is the 26th of November, 2025. Just for the sake of this demo, we're going to assume that today is the 26th of November, 2025. So projects have project deliverables and project risks. What I want to do here is I want to see all my overdue projects. So before I go to overdue, I want to see projects that have not been completed yet. Now, when I click apply, what you will see, and you might not be able to see this very clearly, but at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen where it says rows, it says there's 97 projects that have not been completed. And like I said, for the purpose of this demo, we're going to say today is the 26th of November, 2025, and I'll explain why in just a second. Now, what we want to see is projects that have been completed. The end date is 26th of November, 2025, because this video was recorded on the 26th of November, 2025. So I'm just going to select that particular date. And what it's done is it's changed that from 97 rows to 64 rows. So we've seen this in real time. It's taken me a few steps to get to this information. You can build an agent using Copilot Studio. And within Copilot Studio, what you can do is instead the knowledge base pointing to SharePoint, you can connect it. Power Apps uses Dataverse, so you can connect it to Dataverse. And what you can do within Dataverse is basically say which tables you want to include within Dataverse. So you can see I've selected 5 tables. You can then also have synonyms for the various columns, the fields that are captured within Power Apps. You can have synonyms. So when people interact with the information, they might not call it account, for example, they might call it organization. So you can have account, a synonym for account as organization. So company, we call it account. You can have another synonym over there. Practice area, we've just called it category. And then you could also expand this further and have a glossary. So documentation refers to deliverables, risks refers to the project risk table. So you can actually start to build a glossary as well. So when people are interacting with the agent can make sense of what those fields actually equate to. The first question I'm going to ask this agent is how many outstanding projects are in the project tracker? And if I just said outstanding projects, it would actually probably give me that response as well. So it goes through and looks at the source. And the source here is Datapress. So pretty much where Power Apps retrieves its information from. And it's at 97. It's exactly what we saw in the previous example. What we're going to look at now is what about our overdue projects? And it's going to quickly go and have a look at how many overdue projects are in there. So hopefully our answer is 64. So you can start interacting with this information. You can actually ask it more questions. I'm conscious that we have little time to go through a few more items. So what I want to show you is now this is retrieval. As an exec, I do not have time to go and apply filters. Yes, I might have a dashboard, but the dashboard might not be able to give me the granular detail that I actually want to see. So this is a perfect example where you might actually build an agent to interact with the data that sits in a different data source. So it can also connect to data and information that sits in and outside the Microsoft ecosystem. So it might actually reside in a different solution altogether. There's a whole bunch of connectors available to you, so you can actually leverage those connectors. What I want to show you here is a new agent that's been built. And this agent has been built and embedded into SharePoint. So what you should be able to do is quickly have a look at this agent in SharePoint. And all this agent in SharePoint does is allows me to then go and create information into Power Apps. So can I help you create a new project? Yes. What I've used here is a user-friendly interface for the user to put in the project name, the start and end date, and then click project. When they do that, I use a little bit of the Power Automate capability to then mass up some of the data or also give me a link to the record that it's created. So it goes and creates the record. But what I do here is I get the link to the record that's been created. So I can click on that link straight away and say, okay, now if I need to enrich this data and add additional information to the data, it's as simple as me going and adding more information to the record that I've already created. So this is creation of data, but sometimes context matters. And in terms of you might have customer onboarding where you onboard a customer and you might have to go through a whole range of activities with the customer. First of all, understand what their organization name is. So I have a organization called Brightstar that I want to onboard. And there are 5 people within Brightstar that I want to onboard. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use another agent. I'm going to use my onboarding agent. And you can see I don't have Brightstar in here. And I don't have any contacts that don't have a sample next to it. So I have my customer onboarding agent. I'm going to copy and paste details from an email I received from the customer with all their contacts and their customer details. And what's going to happen over here is as I send that information, it's going to start processing the information and say, okay, I have an account, I have 5 contacts, all associated to that particular account. I am now going to go and create all of these records in Dataverse. So I'm going to send all that information in. You can see I'm sending multiple data sets as well. So I'm sending the first name, last name, job title, email address, and mobile phone number of each of those contacts. What you will see here now is it's sending that information. Soon it should say it's processed or it's been created. Okay, there it's been created. If I now go into my Power Apps, I should see these new records created in Power Apps. So let's have a look at contacts first. And let's refresh the screen. And you can see there are new contact records being created all to a company called Brightwave. So if we actually filter by Bright, contains Bright, you can see those contact records. Now, if you go into accounts, we should see that new account record as well. And you can see all the contacts have been automatically associated to that account as well. So what we've seen here is it's actually processed what I've sent, and it's created two types of records and also linked those records behind the scenes. So there's a lot of stuff that you can actually do with the agentic capability to just make it a better interaction or user experience for your users. I'm conscious that we have questions as well. The last demo I have is around co-work, and then we'll pretty much go into a little bit about data security before we tackle your questions. So co-work is recently introduced in Microsoft 365. A lot of us have a biggest bugbear about expenses. We have to pretty much go and transpose those expenses into Excel spreadsheets, get the date, information. So what I have here is I have a site that I've just basically uploaded all my expenses to, and I want Copilot Cowork to go and have a look at that site, look at anything that looks like a receipt. There's a whole bunch of images uploaded there, and then create an Excel spreadsheet for all those expenses. But at the same time, I realized I might have receipts in there that are personal expenses. So as it's processing in this, and you can actually see the progress of all of this, I'm going to add another item to the queue. I'm just going to say, if you see any personal expenses in there, highlight that in a different color in the Excel spreadsheet. So as it's processing all this information, I'm going to put a new prompt in, and you will see that prompt surface very soon in here. So can you also categorize the expenses? And if there are any personal expenses, change the color. So it goes and processes things behind the scenes, and I'm going to fast forward this video a little bit. You can actually see what it's doing behind the scenes. And then the output folder now has the expense file. So if I click on the expense file, I can now preview the expense file, and you can see all the receipts. I had 9 receipts. It's actually gone and created a Excel spreadsheet. It's actually said I have duplicate receipts as well. It's found that the bed, bath, and table, and it'll actually mention that in the chat as well. But it also found receipts in different currencies. So it's also shown me that information. And it's done all of this for me. So now if I need to basically go and transpose that, or if I can import it into my expense tool, it's just as simple as me just sending that information, making sure I have the right columns and sending it to the expense tool. But I could actually use Cowork to say, give it to me in this particular format, so the importing becomes so much easier. We've covered a lot of capability today, and I'm conscious about the little time that we have. So what I do want to highlight, and we have a few questions around data security as well. Yes, data security is a big concern for leaders today. In fact, a lot of them are actually turning off Copilot or generative AI solutions entirely because they want to make sure that the organization has the data security controls in place before they can actually adopt AI. So the reality is AI adoption is inevitable, but it has to be safe. And this is where Microsoft Purview comes in as well, working hand in hand with Copilot. So once you've done an audit of the access your staff should have access, or the items your staff should have access to, the next thing is what do you do with sensitive information? What is the understanding what sensitive information you have within the organization, and also determining what can be done with those with that sensitive information. In Australia, the average cost of a data breach is 4.26 million. And if you look at that's from a IBM cost of a data security breach report. And the Office of the Australian Information Commissioner has also done a report, and it says about 37 of data breaches are caused by insiders. These insiders are not necessarily malicious individuals. They might be negligent users trying to get some work done very quickly, going and copying company data into a generative AI tool that you haven't sanctioned in your app, in your environment. So what we have here are some capabilities with Purview. It has Defender for Cloud Apps. It gives you visibility into the applications your users are using, and you can decide whether you want to sanction certain applications or you want to unsanction them as well. That means they will not be able to use them. But then it also allows you with Purview data information protection allows you to classify your information that is sensitive, and it allows you to basically put different labels of classification to it. So some of it might be confidential, some of it might be highly confidential, and then you can set policies to say what actually happens with that data and what should not happen with that data. So pretty much then it takes care of all of these internal risks and also prevents you from external risks as well, because if you're classifying your data, you are adding another layer of security on the data. I had a few more slides here, but before I go into a few more slides, I did want to touch on the questions that we had as well. Actually, if people on the call want to go through questions, what I'm going to do is, Subin, let's go through your slides first, and then I will stay on the call to address the questions as well, because we have quite a few questions come up now.
Wonderful. That's fine. So what I will do is I'll just take over. Lovely. Thank you so much for that, Leanne. I think we've still got a bit more information that we're going to get from you at the end of this, especially when you're answering those questions. And to everybody on there, whatever questions you want to ask, please feel free to add to it. And we want this to be something that you get as much out of it. So just to wrap things up, I guess, from our side, exactly as Leanne said, AI is inevitable. It's something that everybody is looking at, and we know that it's been the buzzword for about last year and a bit. And the real thing is that we get a really wide range of reactions or customer perspectives to AI. Everything from, I want it now, get it in right now, because I've seen some video, it's going to give me so much thing. I don't care about security, I just want that right now, to the other side of it is, or Skynet is coming. This is not something that we trust at all, and people get very dramatic. And the real truth is, neither of those two perspectives are exactly the right one. It is not something that you just run into and just implement because it's so powerful, because you still need to do all of those things where you need to look at AI as something that should be put in a responsible and safe way. But at the same time, it is also not something that we should be so scared of that we just won't touch it or we don't want to explore it, because as Leanne showed, there's a number of productivity gains that we can get. And one other thing that I'll just kind of talk about as well is that sometimes when an employee is not quite hitting all of their KPIs, or when they're not doing it, it's not necessarily because they're a bad person or they're not trying. It's just that there are certain things in a business that might be just too hard to just get your head around, or there might be 20 steps to carry it out. And we're all guilty of looking at something and going, hey, that's a 2-hour job, I'll get to it when I've got 2 hours, and we never get to it because we never have free 2 hours to go. So the idea with using AI is just to get you through some of these complicated things and helping you to do the things that you don't want to do, so you can focus on the more strategic stuff. And as we always said, AI's role is not to replace people, but it is there to remove that busy work, which is what we're talking about there. And again, coming back to that final point about not all AIs are equally secure. And, sometimes we do hear the objection from customers, oh, but, this is an AI that's used by all these other customers around the world. Well, it could also be that there's an early adoption. We haven't actually figured out what the security gaps are, because the way that this market is going is that a lot of people are just running into things. So from an Empower IT perspective, we always put security at the forefront of your adoption, because that's us doing the right thing by you. So, keeping in mind that we, from Empower IT, we actually encourage all of our customers to learn about AI, to actually be positive towards adoption, and to be open-minded about those changes that are going to be coming. But from our side, we always talk about, let's start with security and go from there. So before I hand it back to Leanne, we just wanted to say also, we've got a little gift for some of our attendees today. So we wanted to actually just quickly take you through some of the offers. So We want to say also currently Microsoft is running a bundle which is available until the 30th of June, where you're actually going to have the ability to take up AI with Copilot, which is going to be bundled in with your business premium licenses. And this is at a significant discount. So we actually encourage customers that, in the past, you've been a little bit reluctant because of the cost. We think it's a great time for you to jump into this journey because you'll start to see how much productivity you'll get back with it. Another thing is we've got an idea called the team bonus. The reason why Empower IT does started doing these webinars is because we understand that you as customers, you're looking for information on a number of different things that are out there in terms of technologies, and obviously we've been focusing on AI, but we know that where multiple people from the same organization get behind an initiative like AI, it's going to be more successful. It's going to be a better, more successful outcome. So anybody that's here with with at least 3 people from the one company, you're going to get a free Copilot readiness assessment from Empower IT, which is going to be valued at $900. And not to worry, if you didn't manage to get enough of your friends to jump in and join, you can still be in it. We've got a fast 10 promo. So what we want you to do is to be one of the first 10 people to scan the QR code and select yes, and then we'll actually give you that assessment as well. So with that, I'll just hand it back to Leanne, who's just going to do a couple of questions, and then we'll just close it off after that. Lovely.
Thanks, Evan. All right, so we'll go to the first question. Would like to know how to set up AI Copilot to help with tasks going through and sorting emails into, for example, email response from boss, one that appears urgent, invoices to enter into accounting system, etc. Now, the good thing with Copilot Cowork, it actually allows you to go through and filter through emails and also create draft responses. So you can actually go and say, look at my inbox for things that look urgent or have come from a particular person. So you might actually provide your boss's name, and you can just basically say, mark those as you might actually add a flag to those emails, or also create a draft, and then you can go to your draft folder and hopefully you only have 5 emails in your draft. You do want to test this functionality. There's quite a lot of questions in this first particular question. I'm very concerned about data privacy. That's a good concern to have. AI does not create new risks. It does amplify the risks you already have. So I think do take up on the Empower team's assessment to basically do an assessment. Do you have the right security in place for Copilot to actually be put in place securely? So there is an assessment there. So we can share QR code to that as well. I'm sure Rowana will put a link in the chat as well for you to sign up to. Can AI functions be done from the Copilot mobile app? Because you don't see the same functionality. Some AI functions can be done from the Copilot mobile app. You are right. It doesn't have the comprehensive functionality that you will see on your through the web or through the Copilot tool on your desktop. It does not have all of that capability. It has some of that capability. I don't know the roadmap for that, whether it's going to be built in the mobile app, but I would just definitely encourage you to use the desktop application. Currently, the terms and conditions state it's for entertainment purposes only. Heavy reliance on it's okay. I'm going to have to go through these terms and conditions. The entertainment purposes only, so I can't comment on that right now. I went through example heavy reliance on Copilot decision making. Why should you choose Copilots over Agentic AI agentic tool? I hope the presentation covered it as well, because if you look at the Microsoft ecosystem of products, Microsoft has its security portfolio, its productivity suite. It's very intentional about its security. And also, I guess, from a control perspective, it retains the permissions and the access levels that you have. So it pretty much doesn't override those access levels. And then from a data security perspective, you can actually put some more granular controls in place. And then you can also see from an investment perspective, Microsoft is investing heavily into, it has the capability in today, but it's investing into how it keeps enhancing that capability for its AI tools. what workflows are available to ensure outputs are based on factual information, to ensure self-checking and validation when drawing from factual company data. So I would just basically say when you're using Copilot, there is a reliance on that you are actually validating the outputs that Copilot in 365 Copilot is generating. When you're using the agentic capability, I don't have any factual company data or insights at my fingertips right now, but I'm sure we can actually try to find this information from Microsoft for you. And then you're in control of what that final output is. But from an agentic perspective, the only thing I will add from an agentic perspective, you need to make sure you have the right testing procedures in place. Don't create the agent without testing, then publish it to everyone within your organization. What this also does is with the data security capability, I didn't have the time to go through that. You have a tool within Purview Suite called the Data Security Posture Management. So within data security posture management, you can actually see risky behavior. So it gives you a list of different applications and agents within your environment, and it starts pinpointing what data loss prevention policies apply to those applications. Are they actually seeing any risky behavior for those applications? So it gives you a detailed dashboard, so you can actually add some more control around your applications as well. So I think that's all the questions we had. I've tried to answer them very quickly, but I'm sure the team at Empower IT would love to have the conversation with you and take that to the next step. In terms of factual company data, we can come back to with information around that as well.
Lovely. Leanne, we'll just give people an opportunity to just jump in and add anything to the chat if there's any other questions, but otherwise I'll wrap things up. First of all, thank you all very much for joining us. It's been a very special thing for us to have this this amazingly knowledgeable presenter coming in and sharing so much insight about how you can actually look at gaining productivity so quickly and efficiently using the Microsoft Suite. And I think, again, just coming back to that question of why would you go with Copilot was, well, I think we feel like there was a couple of reasons that were presented today. I think the first is the focus on the security and the fact that you're obviously leveraging the existing Microsoft security capabilities, but also, as we mentioned, when you get Copilot, you're not just stuck with one model or one company's thought process or workings or the way that they do it. The beauty is that you as a user get the ability to get exactly what you need. I thought this was really special, especially I'm not taking back to that spreadsheet where Leanne was using the agent, and we noticed how it was actually coming back and qualifying certain things. Would you like to do this? Would you like to what? And I think there was 3 questions that were asked. So again, going back to my own personal experiences, I think that when that happened to me while I was using the agent, it actually helped me think about a lot of things which I hadn't thought about, and it's my business, and yet this agent was actually helping me build exactly what I needed. So I thought that was really special. Thank you so much to Leanne. Thank you to our team at Empower. Roanna's done a lot of work putting this together as well, and we hope that you've all really enjoyed it. Unless there's any further questions, I think we'll just wrap things up. So thank you all very much. Watch out for these the videos and the transcription will be emailed across to you. And also don't forget to jump in there and fill in our assessment.
New ideas take flight today. Let's empower a better way. Together building our success.